Parlando questa mattina cercheremo di raccontare una giornata di festa, prima di tutto, questa qua in cui
Today it's a
raccontiamo
celebration day. We're going to celebrate because we're going to celebrate the results of an important project, LIFE project, one of the most important projects implemented across Europe on one of the topics that are related to our everyday life. That is to say, our relationship with food and the need we have not to waste it. This morning we will hear from many speakers and panelists will talk about projects and analysis and will tell us about the importance of these projects for many students and trainers and educational institutions and other institutions who have worked in this project for many restaurants. This has led to a manifesto, to an e-learning project, and also ambassadors. And so this has led to many concrete practical actions related to even our ability to read what the project has tried to develop. That is to say, information and daily actions that can help us change our daily relationship with food. But before starting, I'd like to say something important to me. I'm working in the field of communication and often write about these topics. And I have to say that there are at least 3 words that have been suggested by marketing and also by people who do my job that I cherish very much. The first marketing terminology, the first marketing word that is very much related to the project we are going to discuss is a short sentence that apply to some restaurants, which is all you can eat. So, you can eat everything. There's no limit to what you can eat. Because all you can eat is the denial of the very notion of food waste. So, it is all you can eat. And so tell me which sustainable contemporary society can afford that and can have in a restaurant can have as a slogan, a claim, all you can eat. We will discuss that. The other 2 words are related to our daily habits when we go shopping to the supermarkets. The first word is sotto costo, that is to say sales, and the other is 4 per 2, 4 times 2, so you buy 4, you pay 2. And actually, these products are sold at a lower cost than their actual cost. So they are very cheap. That goes without saying. But all you can eat in restaurants and the buy 4 pay 2 projects in supermarkets have in common the loss of value of the very notion of food. Because if we can eat all we can eat, it means that what we eat has no value. Or if we can keep buying buy 3 pay 2, we get accustomed to the idea that one of the products is given for free, which is not true, of course, but in our mind we have the idea that that additional product is for free. Then, the third, for instance, yogurt, or the third product, even though it expires, never mind, I haven't paid for it. And in that way we have lost the value of food. So I think that today it's an opportunity, for instance, Life Foster is an opportunity to give back value to food through education. And I think that this opportunity is very valuable, and it's a great gift that we can enjoy after these 2 years of pandemic. And I think that it's one of the few forms of love that we can try to recover and that we can devote to our future. And therefore, we can start without any further ado, and I invite Silvio Barbero, Vice President of Pollenzo University, to bring the greetings of the Pollenzo University, who is member, a partner in the project. Good morning, everyone, and welcome at Pollenzo. I have met already some of you yesterday at Boccon Divino, our osteria. So the osteria where slow food and artigola were created. However, today I'm welcoming you on behalf of the University of the Gastronomic Sciences as the president of the Gastronomic Sciences. And today we celebrate the end of these demanding and committing process around the topic of food waste. Remember that over the last few years, this topic has gained strategic importance. Why is it so? Well, because actually we were wasting food also 10, 15 years ago, but if we go back 10 to 15 years, nobody talked about food waste. But why is that so important today? Well, simply because things have gotten worse, and also the crises have gotten worse, and we have more of them. Crisis related to the food waste. And with the university, we have always worked, of course, on the topic of food with an holistic approach. Since we can no longer speak about gastronomy and food, but just confining it inside kitchens, so inside the gastronomic world, because food is a core, pivotal element in the culture of people, in social organizations, in our economies, in the so-called ecological transition, and therefore food has a new important central role, which we have to address and discuss by discussing food-related subjects with an holistic approach, with an all-encompassing approach. And this is what we are doing here at Pollenzo, what we have tried to do with our project. However, what I would like to underline, and of course later on there will be more discussions about that, is that we moved from an approach to this specific topic, that is to say food waste, so from an approach that initially was an ethical approach. That is to say, in a society where 800, or now probably that's even more than 800 million people are starving and 1.5 billion suffers from food disorders, wasting food is unsustainable. And this is, of course, the starting point. The ethics in our approach to food is a very important driver. So the ethical, let's say the ethical element is at the basis of these proposals. However, over the last few years, as I've said, due to the worsening and acceleration of these crises, meaning environmental, cultural, economic crisis, social crisis, the topic of food waste has gained also economic implications and economic importance, because today wasting food is truly a loss of money, an economic loss, and we know that these days very well that money and economy is very important in the life of people. So the economic factors are important. So food waste now has not only an ethical implication, but also an economic implication in many countries, but also especially in advanced countries, where food waste, not only in the kitchen, not always when cooking, but in general, accounts for 30% of food waste in the US. Statistics say that the waste food products can go even up to 30-35%. There's a significant waste at the moment of production, at the moment of processing that food, and also when that food is consumed. And therefore, this second economic implication is very important and needs to be analyzed. And then another element, a third element that has made this topic even more important is the climatic implications. Climatic implication, because if we waste food, we waste a resource that to be disposed of generates CO2, for instance. But the topic of food and food waste in relation to the generation of and the emission of greenhouse gases is extremely important. And this is something like we have recently had all the recent events. We can all see that we have a climate crisis in progress. We are in the midst of it. So it's already there. It's already reality. And our goal can no longer be, unfortunately, to prevent climate change, but to try to contain and mitigate the effects of climate change. And working on food waste is one of these elements that can help us contain these effects. However, there is yet another important element, which is the topic, let me say it's related to energy. So it's energetic in the sense that this energy-related topic, refers to the use of all the types of energies we have on the planet. We have now realized that our planet's resources are not limitless, and therefore we have to come to terms with this. And this requires a cultural shift, because the Industrial Revolution and all food production models and the models related to our society were developed on the idea that resources are endless. But nowadays we realize that they are not. And this applies also to energy. And of course, wasting food means wasting energy as well, and wasting water, because to produce food, it takes water. And today, for instance, we have this problem of drought because it's not raining. So the approach to these topics needs to be an holistic approach. We have already thought it was fundamental many years ago, but now reality forces us to approach the food waste topic with a multidisciplinary holistic approach, as it involves all these aspects and implications. And actually, I'd like to close by saying that this is the work that we have tried to do. However, this holistic approach, so this ability of looking at a problem by addressing all the various aspects, so with a global holistic approach, requires that we bring about a new cultural revolution. Because without a new cultural revolution, even a problem such as food waste cannot be solved. What do I mean by social revolution? Well, I mean that we have to try to think about new paradigms, because we cannot mitigate the problem or solve the problem of food waste without considering first of all, the cultural problem of changing models. Because if we don't change the models of production, distribution, and consumption of food, well, food waste will remain a central issue in the old models, and therefore we have to work on new models for the organization of our society, to reorganize measurement and control tools, so to measure the effects of food waste, for instance. So this is the task we have to take on from now on. So we have set the grounds, we have created the conditions for an educational process, an educational path. But today we have to state and say everyone that it's not enough. That's not enough. So things can change. So the reduction of food waste and the recovery of food value can only be based on a new revolution. Just like we had the Industrial Revolution, now we need a new revolution. Someone calls it ecological transition. I quite like this expression, but there's no ecological transition if there is no change in models and the organization of society and food production. So this is what we wish all of us ourselves, and we hope we have anticipated and promoted this new cultural revolution that will be instrumental, hopefully, to improve the life conditions in the future of mankind. Thank you, Silvio. Thank you so much. So you talked about changing models, and in relation to food waste, well, the definition of waste related to food, I always say that it's like a sort of oxymoron, because bioeconomics is teaching us that there can be no waste in food, and circular bioeconomy is teaching us that if what Silvio said is true, that is to say that resources are limited, the only unlimited resources are those we can regenerate. So this is a true paradigm shift, the notion of regeneration. However, we need to be able to have the methods and do that. And so that's why we have developed this project. The leader of the project is Enai Panette, and I'm happy to welcome the President, Georgios, who will address all of you. So welcome. So it's a welcome for an end and a new beginning. Generally, you welcome people when you start something new. But we are at the end of a project which has lasted for 4 years. 4 years that have been significant.
Important.
In
mezzo abbiamo avuto sicuramente
in the midst of that, we certainly had COVID too. And what's incredible is that if I look back, so during the COVID, during the pandemic, well, that has led to a slowdown, but this has also helped us to work even harder on a project that has a very deep meaning. I say that this is a project with a deep meaning because ENEPNET provides education and training to young people and adults, and certainly it's a big consortium, and therefore we come in contact with many young people. And the first thing I remember, Silvio, when I talked to you the first time, and sometimes tell me that sometimes I have a visionary, but sometimes I also make a lot of confusion. In any case, the first time we talked about that, we said that the meaning, the sense of all this is very important. There is a very interesting axiom. That is because, of course, none of us knows what has happened in the 30 years before we were born, because when we go to school, we study history up until 30 years before we were born. Why do I say this? And I also relate to what Silvio quite rightfully said. Well, we had a cultural period in Europe in which food was associated with laboring, with respect for nature, and at a certain point we got lost. Certainly from the 90s, the idea was that, there was no problem of sustainability. We didn't even pose ourselves that problem. But we didn't even think about the problem of water and energy and so on. And the children of these people, and maybe you can relate to that, did not convey or didn't manage to do that much, so to convey this sense, this meaning, this sense of respect to their offspring, to their children. That is to say, those who in the 80s and 90s had who had children from the 2000 did not convey in strongly enough the culture that was quite widespread after the Second World War. There is a very important relationship between circularity and food, because we can think of the circular cycle of nature with seasons and the entire process of nature. But in this circular cycle, often there are behaviors which have nothing to do with these cycles, with this circular pattern. And therefore, I think that this project to us has been definitely a great project. And in nature, there are connections between humans, there are relationships, and so we had a lot of connections and relationships. And this is very important to create a new linearity and circularity aspect, because also linearity is important. Linearity is related to implementing actions to take corrections. And I would like to thank all the partners who are present here. Had we not these partners, we wouldn't manage to achieve the goals we achieved, competitiveness and inclusion. If our partners were not there, we would not be able to explain also the importance and the meaning of the economic impact on the things that we do. And certainly this requires an holistic vision that needs to be amplified, because in the transformation process, the relationship between the input and output of energy is very imbalanced. Therefore, in these production processes, we need to improve processes, food-related processes, but also processes related to packaging, etc., need to be improved. And I would like that very much that this project can have an evolution. Certainly 4 years ago we discussed about sustainability with this approach and food waste. So that was 4 years ago. That was very innovative 4 years ago. And nowadays, luckily, this is something that we all share and know very well. And so my strong invitation is to challenge ourselves even more and do more, because taking on habits that are passive. So if you are passive, isn't something that we like, because we have the responsibility related to all these young people and also adults. And I have seen in concrete facts that people also have a strong need for sense, for meaning in relation to these topics. And therefore, I'd like to thank all of you. And I leave the floor to the moderators. Thank you. Very interesting. What you said about circular economy is very important. Like we learn here at the University of Pollenzo, and also a project that we will discuss later on, developed at this university for food, that shows that the first example of circular economy happens when we choose what we eat and try to understand how we feed our body. And so in the circular economy for food, so in this project we have the answer to that need for integration of models, as you've said. So the topic of models have already been mentioned a couple of times. And now we know more or less what we need to do in terms of reviewing models, but the bad news is that we aren't doing that much yet. Therefore, we have to understand what we are doing and in which direction we are going. Now I invite Laura D'Aprile, who is Chief of the Department of Green Transition and Investments of the Italian Ministry of the Environment. Is she here? Probably they're looking for her.
Buongiorno.
Hai collegata?
Oh, she's connected. She's online. Here we are.
Mi scusi, non mi avevano detto che era collegata.
I apologize. They didn't tell me you were online. I was looking for you here in the
Buongiorno a tutti. Innanzitutto ringrazio l'Università degli Studi di Scienze Gastronomiche, ringrazio l'organizzazione e i manager del progetto Life Foster. Il Ministero della Transizione Ecologica ho ascoltato con molto interesse gli interventi che mi hanno preceduto. Il tema dello spreco alimentare ovviamente è un tema prioritario per il Ministero della Transizione Ecologica in un contesto di crisi che è stato richiamato, crisi pandemica ancora purtroppo parzialmente in corso, crisi energetica conseguente alla guerra in Ucraina e crisi idrica che stiamo affrontando in questi giorni insieme chiaramente alle conseguenze devastanti che abbiamo avuto modo di vedere della crisi climatica, sono tre emergenze che devono essere affrontate anche e soprattutto attraverso la modifica dei nostri modelli di comportamento
our behavioral and consumption models, approaching them with the circular economy approach. And the revolution in relation to food waste is probably the simple thing we can do to fight against these three crises in terms of reduction of availability of raw materials and reduction of waste and reduction of water, waste of water. And so food waste is important at all levels. So farms, so when food is produced and then delivered and cooked in restaurants and consumed. And of course, all these have environmental impacts as well as socio-economic impacts, which are quite significant. Therefore, changing the food chain, following the principles of the circular economy, would enable us to decrease the waste, but also to adopt a new consumption and production model, which is a key paradigm in a circular economy. In this respect, I would like to give you some data on the occasion of the second date of awareness in relation to food waste, 30 September 2021. FAO and UNEP underlined that the transformation of agri-food systems and making them sustainable is fundamental not only to achieve the 2030 goals, but also to avoid that we can threaten all the goals of the sustainable development, such as eliminating hunger, pressure on natural resources and environment, and avoiding that there are interferences and the goals cannot be achieved. This data is particularly problematic. The estimate in UNEP 2021 report refers to 931 million tons of food waste generated in 2019. at various levels, and they account for 17% of food available for consumption. And of course, this data is impressive and tell a lot about the urgency of change that must occur at the level of production and consumption. And above all, we have to adopt the right behaviors among consumers, and all initiatives intended to promote promotion, communication, training, and scientific information are key to accelerate and speed up change in behaviors of consumers, because consumers can choose to buy or not to buy food, certain types of food, and therefore they can influence, have a big influence, and not only on what is done after consumption, but also during production. And in order to avoid waste, it's important to adopt also structural actions. MITE has adopted various initiatives, including the National Strategy for Circular Economy, which also focuses on the prevention of food waste, and this will be further developed within the national plan for waste prevention that MITE is developing as an additional cornerstone in this huge effort conducted to foster a circular economy. The initiatives that our ministry has already proposed in terms of food waste reduction includes also the agreement with the National Association of Italian Municipalities for various initiatives related to food waste, and also in relation to the use of reusable containers for food transportation. And also there is a national communication campaign intended to promote the use of a family bag for food transportation. And also there is testing project going on with 20 restaurants intended to collect qualitative and quantitative data about waste, and the results, this data is being processed at the moment. There are also initiatives that revolve around the minimum environmental impact of certain activities, and this has also a role in public tendering processes, and this is something that we adopted already starting from 2020. So we have these minimum levels, and based on these minimum levels in services provided to the public administration, so all services need to have some minimum requirements in relation to food waste. And for instance, in some of these requirements are compulsory, and they require specific action and activities intended to decrease food waste. And this is, for instance, for food delivery and food preparation in schools and in hospitals, and of course it also involves restaurants. And also I would like to refer to the waste prevention national plan that is being developed at the moment, which is a national plan developed together with the Ministry for Economic Development and the Ministry for Agriculture, Altea, the Higher Institute of Healthcare, and other institutes and agencies in Italy, and
tutte le
involves
misure da
all the measures
adottare,
to be
tenendo
adopted,
conto anche delle
also
misure che sono
taking into
già
account
state
of
adottate
measures that
in
have already
molti
been
comuni in
adopted
termini
in
di
many
piani di prevenzione
municipalities with
della produzione di rifiuti, da
waste
adottare a
prevention
livello
plans.
nazionale per
So the
dare
idea is
conto
to
anche dei
adopt
criteri
this plan at the
omogenei
national level so as to
per garantire
achieve,
anche
harmonize
una
the standards
collaborazione,
to also
un'interazione tra
ensure collaboration
produttori e
between
consumatori
producers
ai
and
diversi
consumers
livelli.
at all levels.
Queste sono le
These
iniziative
are
in
the
corso.
initiatives in progress.
Quindi
And
congratulazioni per il
therefore,
progetto che è stato avviato, che
the
va
project,
assolutamente nella
this
direzione,
project
nel
is heading
contesto di tutte le
in
iniziative che
the
l'UNITE
in
ha
the
portato, ha
is in
finalizzato e
line
sta
with all the goals
portando avanti nel
that
campo dell'economia circolare, della
our
bioeconomia,
ministry has
che
always
è stata
promoted.
prima
And
richiamata. La
one of the
bioeconomia
cornerstones
per
is the
l'Italia è
bioeconomy,
parte della
which is
strategia
part
sull'economia
of
circolare. La bioeconomia
our
trova
circular economy
spazio
strategy. The
all'interno della strategia
bioeconomy
dell'economia
has a
circolare
role in
con
this
uno
field,
straordinario
and
coordinamento tra il Comitato
there is
Nazionale per
an
la
extraordinary
Bioeconomia
coordination
e
between the National Committee for
l'UNITE
Bioeconomy
nel
and our
coordinare
ministry
e
to
come dire,
coordinate
creare
and
sinergie
create
tra
synergies
tutte le
amongst
iniziative in
all the
corso.
various initiatives
Quindi vi
in progress.
ringrazio per
And therefore, I'd like
l'invito
to thank
e
you for your
auguro
kind
un buon
invitation.
proseguimento
I
dei lavori.
wish you
Grazie.
a great conference.
Grazie, grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie dottoressa D'Aprile,
Thank you, Mrs.
come
D'Aprile.
dire, grazie per aver fatto questo affresco dei
Thank you
progetti e delle
for
azioni che sono in
giving
campo.
us an
Mi verrebbe
overview
da
of
dire
the
che dal Made
actions
in
and
Italy al
projects
Remade in
in
Italy in termini
process.
di sistema per il nostro
So I think
paese
that this
il
is very
passo potrebbe
important for
essere
Italy.
realmente
So
breve,
generally we
intanto il
talk
senso di
about
urgenza
made in Italy,
certamente
but
sta
now we can
aumentando.
talk about remade
Questa
Italy.
mattina sono stato
That's a
svegliato da
plan.
una cartina del nostro paese che metteva
This morning
in
when I woke
evidenza
up,
un aspetto che
I
in pochi, almeno io, non considero così spesso
So,
quando fa
sorry,
così caldo. Quando fa
I,
così caldo ci accordiamo
I was
dell'alta temperatura,
I was watching the
magari ci
news
viene
and
voglia
I
di
saw a
mangiare un
map
po'
of
meno
Italy
quando è così
and I
caldo,
saw
ma non ci
the
preoccupiamo ad
temperatures
esempio di un dato che
and
per
when
quel che
it's
riguarda
very
molto
hot
quel che
we
mangiamo, e cioè
don't
che è la
consider what
temperatura
we
del
are eating,
suolo, della terra, la terra che noi
and also we
calpestiamo.
have to take into
In questi
account
giorni
the
nel nostro
temperature
paese ci
of the
sono
soil. At the
molte aree
moment
che
in Italy there
hanno
are many
sfiorato, in
areas
alcuni casi superato
where temperature
la
went
temperatura
as
sopra i
high
55
as
gradi.
55
55
degrees in
gradi la
terms of ground
terra
temperature.
non è più
So
in
at
grado di
55
produrre
degrees,
niente. Noi possiamo coltivare la
the
terra,
earth
ci
can
mettiamo
no
il
longer
trasporto, però mettiamo le
produce
scarpe solo prima di
anything. I
camminare.
mean, we can
Ma la
wear
terra è
shoes and
massa da
walk, but
mettersi,
the
quindi
earth
non
has
ha nessuna
no
possibilità di
shoes to
produrre
wear and so
alcunché.
cannot produce
Quindi
anything at that
la terra
temperature.
soffre e
And
andiamo.
therefore the
Ma
earth
entriamo dentro live
is
fossil.
very
Io
hot.
che l'ho
But let's
analizzato
now
per
talk
qualche volta in
about
questi
life
anni,
fossil.
mi
Now I
permette
ask
di venirmi a dare
Mela
una
Pizzano
mano
to come and help
e
me
cercare di raccontare
to
attraverso tutta una
try
serie di
to
contributi che
tell
si sono
through
anche
to
hanno
tell you with
sviluppato
various
per raccontare
panelists,
qual è stata
so to
l'esperienza
tell you
di
what the
che
experience of
risultati ha
life
portato.
foster has been, the results that were achieved,
Facoltativo, siamo
and of course, I mean, we are late, and therefore I ask all the panelists to stick to the time they were allotted.
Prova. Good morning, everybody. Let's start the session of the Love Food, Reduce Waste, Training, Education and Communication to Reduce the Waste in the Food Service Sector. I'm really pleased to invite on the floor Ms. Barbara Archesso. She's the project manager of Life Foster Project from ENAIPNet.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really very pleased to start present a little bit more this project. I would like to start with few concepts. If you can, se la regia può intanto mandare le slide per cortesia, perché in questo momento io non le ho. Grazie. So, let's start just taking a few concepts that were already mentioned. The importance of food as a value. This was the assumption, the starting assumption of this project, and we worked around this important value, which was shared by all the partners. We are what we eat, and we are in a system, and we must work all together. Why did we choose to consider the restaurant industry, or more generally speaking, the food service industry? Because although it is not the most part of the food wasted in this, although the food service does not produce the largest quantity of food waste, it's very important for two aspects. The first one is that you need trained people, professionals, working inside the food service industry. This is not always considered as an important asset in this sector. Secondly, because restaurants and, more generally speaking, professionals from the food service industry can persuade people through their examples to change their behaviors. So I was just showing a little bit what happens. I don't want to to delve into the details because of time constrictions. But let's say, what was the most important lever that we used in this project? The most important lever is professional training. Because as I was saying before, this is a powerful lever to change behaviors. First of all, of professionals working in the food service industry, and secondly, of their customers, so of citizens at the end of the day. So we want to contribute, obviously, to the achievement of the target 12.3 of our UN SDGs. But what we want to do is also to contribute to improve the quality of education, an education which goes hand in hand with the economic development, which must be sustainable. So we want to give a strong contribution in changing this paradigm, in this case also from linear to circular, because what we used also in this project was a circular paradigm. So, just to give you an overview of the project, we started with the collaboration among partners who represent different segments in the value chain, I would say, both of food in a certain sense, because we have for the food service sector, two organizations representing the professionals, but also, I would say, the environment of education, because we have strong cooperation among VET providers, so vocational education and training providers, and the academy, the University of Gastronomic Sciences. So this collaboration among partners coming from different backgrounds was really effective. I just want to spend few words on this thing. We worked in different experts working group related to bioeconomy, circular economy, etc. Usually in those environments, the debate is focused on high professional profiles, which means starting from, let's say, the fifth EQF level, I mean higher education. What is very important in this project is that we prepared the workforces, bottom. So people who are going into the kitchens and working with like simple cooks, waiters, simple restaurant managers, young and adult who want to undertake their professional career in the food service sector. This is very important, this means that you can change the cultural paradigm starting from the bottom. You can't change the paradigm if you only work with the top positions. You need both of them involved, on board for the change. So, important goals of the project were introducing food waste prevention solutions to raise the awareness of people working in the food service industry, but not only them, also citizens at large. Training, as I was saying, trainers and students. It's very important that we start from training the trainers because they will create the multiple effect, the ripple effect, and they help you reach larger numbers. They must be on board, convinced. And then you ultimately also try to influence policymakers through our lessons learned. We don't want to tell policymakers what they will do in their policy measures, but perhaps a few things learned through the project can be declared. Our paradigm was rethink, reduce, reuse, according to the capsized pyramid of waste. It was very important. This was also these were the three words that we conveyed also in our training courses. The project actions were multiple. This was a complete strategy starting from analyzing the best practices, initiatives previously undertaken by other organizations. I would like to underline that we found in that analysis that many of those initiatives were working downhill of the problem, which is reusing waste or redistributing food waste, which is not, that was the type of approach at that time. We tried to change this type of approach because preventing food is what can really produce a reduction of energy, reduction of resources, and all the rest of things that we already said previously. So the first step was to create a model and tools for the solutions to training the trainers and the students. Introducing the students in the companies during the company work placement. There was also a good, let me use this word, contamination of food service professionals. Then we developed strong promotional awareness raising tools starting from our website, the newsletter, which reached 150,000 people, so very wide dissemination. Then, very important, the monitoring through the development of a web tool specifically used in our laboratories. So, again, trainers and students together to measure in their laboratories the food waste generated when they work, and to start thinking how to improve and reduce the wasted food. And as I was saying before, transfer of lessons learned to policymakers. Some project results. So let me say, we could involve 353 trainers. And I would like to underline one thing, that some trainers were not technical trainers from the food service, from the catering curricula courses. They were trainers working on more general topics. We call it active citizenship. So we proposed to them to start preparing lessons and holding lessons in their own subject, to talk to all of their students about the importance of reducing food waste. So this was an important action. This also helped people to change their behaviors. Over 6,500 students were trained directly around Europe. Then we can also mention that 500 professionals were involved in webinars during the lockdown phase of the pandemic. We had over 3,500 subscriptions in our online courses. And, well, as I was mentioning, the food waste flow balance, which is an important web tool. In the Italian platform of circular economy stakeholders and the UNI, the organizations providing standards in Italy, recognized Life Foster as a best practice for the circular economy. So, the awareness effects, I just want to give a very quick overview of this. All students that were trained in food waste, and I'm talking about students who are attending the food service courses, demonstrated to have increased their awareness after attending the specific course on food waste. I think this is an important thing to underline, because you have a tangible result that you can also provide in order to foster more and more the introduction of a specific competency on food waste prevention in all food service curricula. Just quickly, the training model I was mentioning before, based on four major steps. Recognizing food waste as a global challenge, so have an overview of the problem. Then identify the drivers of food waste in one's own organization, so develop system thinking and critical thinking, which are crucial for all pathways to achieve sustainability. And then choose some important variables and their dynamics in order to define the solutions to adopt and prepare an action plan to curb food waste in one's own organization. This is not only valid in the course, in the training course. This is all the most valid inside the companies. And then measure your improvement, which is crucial if you want to see how good you are at doing something. I would go quickly through these slides. I just want to stop a little bit on the food waste manifesto, because we reached around more than 400 ambassadors, we call them, of subscribing our food waste manifesto. It's important to show that people are committed, are interested, are aware of the importance of this problem. And then just a few words on the lessons learned. We we grouped our lessons learned around 3 clusters. One, focusing on companies. So promotional campaigns are very good, are important, but it's very important also to recognize the commitment of companies. So those companies that are active in the reduction of food waste should find supporting measures. Then we need, therefore, probably some incentives at national level, European level, local level, it depends. But it is very important to recognize this aspect also in terms of, in financial terms. And we need strong awareness also of the importance of the professional preparation of the people who work in these companies. It's crucial that companies and vocational training organizations work hand in hand. So perhaps also creating an eco-label that covers all those aspects could be a good thing. Then for vocational training, I was mentioning before a specific competence on food waste prevention, and promote the certification of this competence, again, because it needs to be certified. And have also incentives for those vocational training organizations that are committed to reduce food waste in their everyday work. Coming to the final group of lessons learned, they are focused on measurement tools. It's very important that those tools are adapted to the context where they are used, because otherwise you can't have a sound baseline. It's difficult to have only one tool adapted to farming and restaurants. It's not the same thing. So we should also encourage more to the adoption of measurement tools. And also introduce the use of measurement tools in those vocational training pathways where people are getting ready to act effectively in their own work environment. So I will stop here. I thank you very much for your attention, and hope you will enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Ms. Archesso, for the presentation, the main project results and lessons learned. Now let's invite on the floor the presentation on the project's results as well, but for the IT tool and the chef perspective. Mr. Franco Fassio, Scientific Advisor and Professor of Circular Economy for Food and Systemic Design of University of Gastronomic Sciences of Pollenzo. And then Ms. Nadia Tecco, Project Manager of Life Foster and Contract Professor at UNISG as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning everybody, and welcome also to Pollenzo from me too, and Nadia obviously. As I said before, I'm Franco Fassio, I'm the scientific advisor of the research for the parts developed by UNISG obviously. So the aim of my intervention is to summarize in really few words the contribution of our university as a scientific partner of Life Foster project, starting from the definition of the training model for trainers to get to the monitoring and creation of a web application called Food Waste Flow Balance for measuring the quantity and economic value of food waste. So to do this, I will have to take a short step back to the past to the methodological premises of our approach, trying, however, to reflect on the result of the project, obviously, looking at their roots and their replicability, and I'm doing that using two keywords, circularity and experimentation. So, well, when we started in 2018 with this project, Nadia and I had just published a book entitled, in the second slide, entitled Circular Economy for Food, whose intent was to substantiate the potential of applying the principle of circular economy to all the food system. So we started with the collection of case history to all the food supply chain, trying to understand better what circular economy is when it is applied to food system. Well, therefore, the project immediately appeared to all the UNISG project staff, including the food lab, an opportunity to apply the principle of circular economy for food in the catering sector, and to shift also action to struggle food waste in many ways from a linear and reuse logic, but also recycling to the prevention plan, for example, or also to the redesign and the rethinking of the processes that determine the flow of material and energy, and I said also about information, with the catering establishment, the professional training center for future catering staff. So in doing this, we have tried to empower the figure of cooks, and in this way we can speak also about the experimentation thanks to the Life Foster project. So I give the floor to Nadia to better explain this action.
Okay, I will try to be quite quick, even if the action are many, and also the project is begun from 2018. So first of all, I wanted to spend some words about the training, because it's our first step, and it is an action which is strongly related with the issue of measurement, as also Barbara said before. We designed this training, and we start in March 2019 in Conegliano. And we look and we apply to the issue of food waste a systemic thinking and also a problem-solving strategy. So that means that we adopt an approach that see the problem of the food waste starting from the very big issue, the big issue of complexity, and then we move in an incremental way to the different level of the issue of food waste, and dealing with the level of daily routine, and so according to the different perspective, dealing with the training center or with restaurants. During the training, it was really interesting, because we start to share also some tool, because we work together with the trainers that we will involve in the future in our project, also to develop some tool for trainers. For example, we make some roots analysis of the issue of food waste, and so we realize this food waste tree in order to see how big and how is the issue of food waste is made by interrelated causes. And also we create a sort of map of solution, because it's dependent from the issue and from the perspective. But of course it's not just, our training is not just a content transfer, because we want to have, first of all, a training of the trainers. So we have to adapt the content for trainings to the students, to other people. And also we have to adapt this content to the big diversity of a vet center. We are a center from different countries, and even in Italy the diversity is very high between the different centers. for the dimension, but also for the daily practices. And also we have to arrange with the diversity within the restaurant sector, because the process within a trattoria can be very different from a pizzeria or from a catering, for example, and we will see after the presentation of Gaia from Vivendo, and she will explain how it's complex and how it's challenging the world of the catering. So we designed this model according a circular perspective, because our model is made of a cycle. Every day we face with the issue of waste. Is a relentless problem, and so every day we have to understand the shape of the problem, the solution that we can adopt, try to adopt the solution, measure it, and maybe arrange, and then again start again. And this is the shape of many problems that we have to face today, not only food waste. Things, for example, to climate change. Every day we have to take action. Every day we have to start to behave. So I think this is something that we have to take in our mind when we are dealing with sustainability and complexity. So we design some also guideline for adopting this tool, and we are focusing on mixing, and we are focused on increasing the awareness, the skill, the competencies, and also the knowledge about the issue of food waste. And so for us, the measurement is just one part, one step of our model. We are aware that it's true that you can manage what you can measure, of course, but maybe the measurement by itself is not enough, because if you get a number, and if you are not able to understand this number, if you are not able to adopt proper solution, is just a number. So I think that what is really relevant for us is to encapsulate this number within the process of training. And I think this is something innovative, because when you are looking at the tool and the innovation in the food service, you see a lot of ICT tool, for example, in smart balance and smart application. But I think that it's really relevant to combine with a system that can be able to measure, but can be able to be part of a training model as a fundamental step of this training model, and also to have reliable data. What of the first challenge in our project was to build the baseline, because we don't have an idea of what is the amount of waste in a training center. And I think that many restaurants have no idea of what amount is the quantity of food waste, and not only the quantity, the physical quantity, but also the economic quantity, as is a variable that is very crucial. So we developed this monitoring, and it's according to 3 steps. We started with a very basic tool, with a sheet of Excel, and started to collect the data. But we realized that for the trainers is very relevant to have the data collection and to have at the same time the data visualization, so the interpretation of the data. Because when you have to fill the web application, you need the dashboard. You need immediately to look at the graphical display. So we develop a web application in order to make the process more efficient. But of course, it's something, when you collect the data, you need time, and you need a lot of job in order to data collection. So it's something that it's a further effort for restaurants, and we have to be aware of this. Our goal related with the action of measurement was to minimize the incidence of food waste, and we have a specific target. On average, we have to reach a reduction of 9.1% of the quantity of food waste. And so we try to reason how we can decrease this percentage. For example, by using in a better way our ingredients, by redesign the menu, by redesign the recipe, but also increasing the rate of consumption, because we have to be aware that we have some problem during the phase of storing and the preparation, but there is also a big challenge related with the issue of consumption, even in the training center. So we developed this web application. Each user can create a profile, so each user can be a vet center or can be a restaurant, and and you can input data according the process of creation of a dish. So you enter the data when you are storing the food, you monitor the situation of food waste, then you can monitor the situation, you can track the flow during the transformation and then during the consumption phase. It's possible to work according a different perspective, because we are working first focus on the ingredients, and we are at the level of storaging and during the preparation. But then during the preparation you have the creation of a dish, and when we are monitoring the data of food waste during the consumption, of course we are dealing with the dish. And we organize all this information according the unit of a menu, because it's the fundamental unit in order also to create a redesign, because you can, for example, arrange the flow of matter of ingredients, but also the matter of water and energy. And we design our web application according the input-output production. So it's a very simple principle. You have a certain amount of input, ingredients, and you evaluate how many inputs you are being able to use and how much is the quantity of food waste. So the principle is very simple, and this tool is free of charge, because it's one of the results of our project, and training center and restaurant that want to experiment, they are free to do. With this web application, you can quantify food waste, the quantity, but also the economic value of the food waste. You can classify and quantify the food waste according to the category of the product, measure the proportion of edible and inedible food. It's a very interesting issue, because we understand that inedibility is a very cultural issue, and so we can also work on the issue of inedibility in order to increase the room for reducing food waste, measuring energy and water consumption, and also compare different menus. So I just want to show some data visualization. For example, here we have a menu from ENAIP Rovigo. So you have the balls represents the different dishes, and so you can have a very quick view of the incidence of food waste according to quantity and according the economic value. For example, in this menu, you have that insalata di pollo, patate, olive nere as the big quantity, produce the big quantity according the issue of food waste. And also, it's also interesting to have a final result about the incidence of food waste of the menu, because this menu produces a 5% of food waste according to the quantity, and we lose 1% of our food cost by dealing with the ingredients. We can also have other filters, because we can have the total view, and so we can have the incidence of the food waste according to a single menu, but we can have also a visualization of the incidence of food waste according a certain period. So we can also monitor the performance of the restaurants during time. And so it works like a sort of car displays. So every center is able to understand which is the situation, understand where are the point of weakness, and adopt a solution in order to decrease the amount of food waste. here I want just to share the final result and the final data of the tree monitoring according to the quantity. So here we have the incidence of food waste in kilo. We involve 15 training centers, and during the first monitoring we measure that we produce an amount of food waste equal to 17.4%. We are able to reduce the incidence of food waste dealing with quantity to a rate of 12%. And in the third monitoring, we are able to reach a quantity of 8.3%. So this means that the training was effective. We are able to decrease the amount of food waste, and we are able also to reach the target because we decrease the total amount of food waste of a percentage of 9%. So it's a good result because it has also an impact from the point of view of the economic side, because if you look at the data of the first monitoring dealing the incidence of the cost of food waste, we have an amount of 19% in the first monitoring, decrease to 16% in the second monitoring, and decrease to the 10.1% in the third monitoring. So we are able to decrease the incidence of the cost of food waste of a percentage of around 9%. So I think that the training was effective, and the monitoring was effective because it was encapsulated in a training model. But as a university, we work also to experiment to create new tool in order to create a ripple effect dealing with circular economy. And so we work with the trainer, but with this challenge that we organized in last May, we involve the students of the different vet center, and we create a sort of competition that was organized in 2 steps. First, a brainstorming, where we ask to create a circular recipe. And then, after the selection, we develop a real competition where the students, 10 students, has to create the circular recipe, and we evaluated the quality of the recipe according to the issue of food waste, but also according to different criteria such as the nutritional intake, because food waste is one issue, but we want also to deal with nutritional intake and other quality and other criteria related to food. And also we design in our university, and we try to experiment from directly in our canteen a week where we try to have a circular menu. And so you can see that starting from a very limited number of ingredients, we were able to have a menu that is long all the week. But I think it's very interesting because in all the day you have different recipe, so it's not same ingredients but very diversity in the menu, and it's very good from economic point of view because you buy seasonal product, you buy just a limited amount of ingredients, and you are able to use the whole ingredients, and you are able also to reduce a big amount of food waste. So just to close, I think that we develop with this project a lot of different action, but I think that the common ground of all our action are these 4 points, that we work to create solutions that are able to connect actors and activities. In food waste, as in many situations in our life, communication is the big problem. So I think that we have to connect the different dots. We want to change the behavior. We want to create a social cultural meaning. We have to look at the food in a new way or in a new old way. And also we have to adopt innovative solutions, but just frame in a big cultural issue. Otherwise, innovation is not enough. So I thank for your attention, and also I just want to thank all the partners and all the people that share with us this long journey starting from 2018. Okay, thank you.
Brava. Thank you very much, Ms. Tecco, for this very beautiful presentation about the Auti tool, and also to Mr. Fassio. Now I would like to invite Ms. Elisa Filippi, Life Foster Project Manager from FIC, Federazione Italiana Cuochi, talking about the chef's perspective towards a new model for food waste prevention and reduction.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here, but I must say it has been a pleasure to be in this project because we have learned a lot. The Italian president of the Italian Federation of Cook, Rocco Pucciullo, which unfortunately couldn't be here, but I bring to you his greetings, often said that to avoid food waste is or should be in the attitude of a good chef. But what we have learned during this project is that even chef, and maybe especially chef, can do more and better. And that this more and better is not just about the improvement of their technical ability in processing food, but mostly on the adopting of a new approach to bring the circularity in the kitchen. So starting from building, rethinking of the way to build a menu, as Nadia explained before, to the choose of the ingredients, to the relationship with the suppliers and local suppliers especially. So we have learned a lot during this 3 years journey in the project, and our main commitment, the main task of the Italian Federation of Chefs was to bring, the Life Foster project to the general public, so to spread these contents among chefs and all the public and private actors of the food chain. So we have organized very different kind of activities. Here you can find a very short overview, because at the end we have a short video to present it in a more complex way. So we participated in many fairs. We have organized different kind of activities during these fairs. And what is important to mention about this is that we introduced for the first time in an official structural way the criteria of the food waste reduction and management during the competition. So this criteria is now part of the criteria during the national championship of the Italian cuisine, in example. And it was a first time in official way. We have organized, of course, many webinars online and also in-presence event. We organized also the food waste hackathon that Barbara explained before. It was a very interesting event because it has been held during the pandemic, so it was difficult, but we did it in a digital way, involving 15 students from Italy and France. And the aim of the competition was to prepare the artichoke in the best way, avoiding the food waste, and we did it. We also obtained a very good result because the winner used about 60% of the artichoke, which is a quite impressive percentage. And we also did some additional activities, such as the lesson dedicated to food waste and the Life Foster model during a master promoted by the Italian Federation of Chefs. And also we realized two collection of recipes dedicated to the food waste and realized within the Life Foster project. But what we have really learned, here are the 3 key messages we would like to share with you. The first, the level of awareness is high on this topic, but specific training is needed. So, in example, at the beginning of the project, we discovered that the majority of the participants to our webinars and seminars was aware of the importance of the food waste, but the majority of them has never participated in a training event, a training event specifically dedicated to this topic. So, a need for specific training from the chef and professionals category was needed, and it is still very important. The second is that also from the chefs and the professional and the private stakeholders working on the food chain come a very strong need to strengthen the relationship between the education sector, the local authorities, so in the cities, and the civil society organization. And the third key message is about the monitoring and also about what Nadia said before. At the beginning of the project, we discovered that if food waste was a topic already known, so there was already a certain level of awareness on that. On the monitoring and the measurement of food waste was not so clear and was not so so known. There was not so much awareness on that topic. But the platform developed by the University of Gastronomic Science was very useful because, in example, one of the chefs of the Italian Federation of Chefs tested this platform, and he discovered how it has been very useful to monitor the food waste within their restaurant, and he discovered how through this platform he could save another important percentage of food, about 10%. So our suggestion, invitation is to go on this direction, and also to have a stress on measurement and monitoring, which is really, really important, even if not so easy to communicate. But now I would just maybe ask to launch the video that we have prepared. It's very short video, 3 minutes video, and is a recap of all the activities that we have carried out during this project.
Thank you.
Sorry, just a final word to say thanks for my side, the Italian Federation of Chefs, to Barbara, to ENAIP, to all the partners of the Life Force project. Thanks.
Thank you again, Ms. Filippi. Now I would like to invite Mr. Gabriel Cassar, Life Foster Project Manager from Malta Business Bureau, talking about the project results, but from the Malta perspective.
So, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to address you all today, and it's also a pleasure to celebrate the results that we've achieved in this long project. We worked very well as a partnership, and it's great to see that this work is bearing fruit in the conclusions of this project. So this was meant to be a joint presentation between the Malta Business Bureau and the Institute of Tourism Studies, the 2 Maltese partners, but unfortunately ITS had some delays in their travel arrangements, and they will be joining us later today. So I will deliver the presentation and go over some of the numbers that ITS achieved as well. Just as an introduction, the MBB is basically the EU Advisory Office of the Malta Hotels and Restaurants Association and the Malta Chamber of Commerce. So our role is mainly on EU policy and lobbying, but also EU project implementation on subjects which affect our members. over the course of the project, our focus was very much focused on professionals and businesses, especially restaurants and hotels. So all of our activities and events had to tie in with this demographic. We held several events and webinars over the duration of the project, but since time is limited, I'm going to focus specifically on the activities that we are implementing and have implemented over the last few months, specifically on two main points. The first is a series of food waste reduction workshops, which we are organizing with chefs, restaurant managers, and other people involved in the food supply chain within hospitality businesses. And the second is a food waste video series that we are organizing, which we have actually filmed and now are promoting with chefs and restaurants which we have worked with within the project and which we would like to promote due to their good work. So in terms of the food waste workshops, basically this is a 3-month series. So we're organizing starting from May of this year until the end of this month in July, several 3-hour workshops limited to 4 participants each to allow room for actual discussion and exchange of ideas between the participants, our chef trainer and MBB. Focus specifically on food waste reduction based on the Life Foster model, which we have already discussed in previous presentations today. So in terms of the numbers for May, we held about 7 workshops in the first month. From these 7 workshops, we reached 22 people, but these people also came from, they represented about 52 different establishments because we had people such as head chefs or general managers who represented different kitchens, different restaurants, or they had multiple outlets. In terms of the discussion which came out, I'm highlighting some points which perhaps we have already discussed today, but which I think were very important since they were mentioned several times within the workshops themselves. Okay. The first part, which we have already touched upon, is the importance of understanding what the type of restaurant is, and especially understanding the type of services it offers. For example, we know that a buffet service can lead to a lot more food waste than an a la carte service can. But then there is also some nuance in this. For example, COVID taught us that plated buffet actually helped restaurants and hotels reduce their food waste significantly, at least in Malta. So maybe this is something that certain establishments which do want to offer buffet service because of their clientele can take up to reduce their food waste levels. The thing is, this also ties into a second issue which was stressed very heavily in the workshops, and we have also mentioned it here today, is the workforce and the skills of the staff that you have working in your kitchens or even in your front of house. As I can imagine, the whole of Europe right now is experiencing a massive shortage of tourism and hospitality workers. It is the same in Malta. In Malta, we also have a problem that I would say most of the people working in restaurants or hotels do not have professional training, so they may not appreciate or have the technical skill to reduce food waste unless they receive some sort of training, such as the one offered in Foster. But we also encourage further training programs to be provided by government, other projects, whatever, to at least help people who do not have formal training to increase their competences and skills. This third aspect, which is particularly important for Malta, is the consistency of the produce and ingredients that is being supplied to restaurants. Because many chefs complained that they end up wasting food because the ingredients that they are receiving are not of high quality, they cannot use them, and they end up throwing them away. And here we sort of encourage, particularly the Maltese authorities and the standards authorities, to make sure that the produce produced in Malta is actually up to standard and usable by restaurants. There's also the element of sponsor a farmer. Basically, this is the idea to help encourage local and seasonal ingredient use, and also to help contribute towards reducing food miles. So the idea was that restaurants, or at least a group of restaurants, can come together to work with a farmer or a number of farmers to ensure supply of this local produce. We also mentioned here today that consumer waste is also a major problem, and at least from our participants, they said that it is the major problem when it comes to food waste in their restaurants. So here more education and awareness is needed on the consumer side in order to understand that what they are leaving on their plate actually has an environmental and economic and a social impact. This is very much stemming from the idea that in Malta, people expect large portions, but large portions will mean food waste. And the participants also floated the idea of introducing internal KPIs within businesses to incentivize employees to reduce and come up with ideas to reduce food waste, maybe tied to aspects such as bonuses. Next, we also had the food waste video series, which I mentioned. Basically, the idea here was to film 5 video clips with 5 different establishments where the chef would cook a food-efficient recipe, we were calling them, to showcase how they are trying to reduce food waste in their kitchens by promoting different recipes. Basically, we started promoting this in the last week of June, and we're issuing 1 video per week. So far, we've published 2, with the first one reaching over 4K. I think it's about 5K views, 5,000 views on Facebook so far. And the second one has about 2,000 views. It was published last week. And I'd really like to show you our first video. So if this could be shown on the screen, please.
My name is Stefan Hogan, and I'm executive chef at the Country Palace Hotel in Attard. So today I'll be preparing a dish with cauliflower, and I'll be showing you how to utilize the stalks, the leaves, the stems, and the florets. So I'll be having part of the cauliflower, which is going to be roasted with a roast harissa. I'll be doing a small floret, which I'll be caramelizing in butter. I'll be doing a puree. I'll be doing a cauliflower couscous, which is basically a cauliflower that has been grated and mixed with the ingredients so it resembles a couscous. And then the leaves and the stalks are going to be very finely sliced and quickly fried in some oil and seasoned with thyme and salt and pepper. And what we'll have is a dish that looks appealing, is interesting, has different flavors, different textures, and it's all made from 1 ingredient, but more importantly, it's utilizing the whole vegetable. Very, very little will end up in the waste basket. Food waste needs to be high on our agenda, and the only way we can tackle food waste is by ensuring that we show respect to the ingredients. We also need to show respect to the people who produce the ingredients, so the fisherman, the farmer, and the producer. And the only way we can reduce food waste is by ensuring that as little of what we have on our chopping board or what we are cooking with ends up in the waste basket. Whenever I create recipes, I always make sure that offcuts of fruits, vegetables, meats or fish have a secondary purpose in possibly another recipe, to make sure that all the ingredients that can be taken out of the product are useful and have a utility within a recipe, to make sure that as little is wasted and ends up in the waste basket.
So that is the video. So for MBB side, that is all. I also wanted to go quickly over ITS's numbers, since they are not here. So ITS is the National Vet Training Center supplying the tourism and the hospitality sector in Malta. So they were responsible for the student and the lecturer training in Malta. So at the first sort of half of the project, so in between June 2019 and May 2021, they had actually trained 10 lecturers. Now we have to also remember that Malta's numbers are relatively small because we are a very small country, but the issue is still very important. Following this initial training, the training was also opened up to teachers in secondary school in order to increase the reach of the project. And due to this, another 28 teachers were trained. So over the last year or so, ITS trained over 300 students. And a number of the students, or about 1/3 of these students, had the opportunity to actually practice what they were trained in practical training kitchens within the training center itself. Then following this training, the student training was also opened up to younger students, particularly primary school students between the ages of 5 and 10, to start raising the awareness on the importance of food waste reduction from a very early age. ITS were also created a number of videos and recipe videos on different aspects. So they had their lectures coming up with different recipes. For example, a recipe using orange candied peels, Maltese bread pudding, all showing different ways how you can use leftovers or offcuts in order to turn them into a different dish. ITS were also responsible for the communications aspect of the project in terms of the newsletters and social media. I all encourage you to follow our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, and also subscribe to the newsletter through the Life Foster website. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cassar. Let's invite Lucrezia Palladini, Life Foster Project Manager from CESE, talking about the project results from Spain perspective.
So, good morning, everyone. So, today, as the Spanish Confederation of Training and Education Center, we are going to show you the Spanish perspective of the Life Foster project from two main points of view. So the first one is the engagement of our schools, who were involved directly in the project, and then the Life Foster effect in the Spanish context. So starting from the engagement of the schools involved, we were collaborating with two main bed centers, which were one was the Escuela Superior de Hostelería de Bilbao.
You have to.
And the second one was the Centro de Formación Profesional Altaviana from Valencia. So until now, also Barbara was talking about the domino effect, about the training, about the importance we should give about this topic on the training. So we wanted to show you some picture about the training of trainers that we start in our bed centers, and now actually our centers were implementing different activities since day one. So about the training of trainers, the training was structured in more practical session and more theoretical session. So this part is more theoretical, as you can see, and then there was a more practical one. Thanks to the strong involvement and motivation of our centers, we actually decided to broaden our audience. So we didn't just train our main target, which was the trainers of professional centers. So we actually realized a theoretical session in Escuelas de Artesanos. So this training session was directed to primary school teachers. And the Escuela de Artesanos, it's a school of FECEVAL, which is the Federation of Training Center of Valencia, which is part of CESE. And then we are planning new initiatives in terms of training other trainers in July. So we are planning a session in the Escuela Superior de Hostelería de Barcelona, and as well in Tecnica, which is the Center for Applied Research of Basque Education and Vocational Training. So as you can see, our centers actually decide to spread the Life Foster training outside their context. So, and we actually reached 124 trainers until now. Then we have to talk about the chefs to be, the future generations, so about the training of students. Regarding our students, our schools actually reached almost 200 students. And the training was divided here as well, more in a practical session. So the trainers here focus on all the food waste hierarchy, the food waste problem, the principle of circular economy applied to the food service sector. Also, they were organizing some debate about the food waste management and reduction. And then we had a more practical session where here, for example, the students were participating in a menu design training simulation. Beside training our students here as well, we brought our audience and we organized two theoretical sessions. The first one was a more theoretical one with the students of the gastronomy degree of the University of Valencia. And this was in the Faculty of Pharmacy of the university. And then we had a second training session in the vet center, Altaviana. So here it was divided in two parts. So there was a more theoretical part, and then we have a practical one, as you can see from the picture. So they were in the kitchen. And also we want to thank all this huge motivation and engagement of our centers, because this gave more visibility to the project. For example, here you can see a picture of a girl who was participating to the master class on Instagram, and this gave more visibility, of course. And talking about visibility and spreading, here we put a video that we cannot see, but it's a student from one of the vet center, and she did a blog. She was talking about what is food waste. She received the training, and then she did this kind of a blog, talking about the problem, how to resolve the problem, which kind of solution, recommending you should plan your food, your grocery, and etc., etc. And then about the part of the internship, the more practical part, until now we have realized almost 200 internships. And we participated in different fairs. So the first fair was the Gastronomic fair in November 2021. So here our students had a double role. So the first role was being a Life Foster ambassador. As we were saying, we promote a lot this engagement from our students. So they were presenting the project to the attendees of the fair. And then on the other side, we had some students cooking a zero waste menu for the VIP lunch for the 3 days of the fair. Then we went to the Alimentaria fair in Barcelona, and here as well, it was thanks to the involvement of the coordinator of the vet center in Valencia, which recommended to go, and we could network with a lot of different stakeholders, and actually we had a meeting there with a member of the Official College of Nutritionists and Dietitians of the Valencian region. And then we went to the Food for Future Fair in Bilbao, and here you can see those are the students from the Escuela Superior de Hostelería de Bilbao, and they were acting here as well as Life Foster ambassadors, so they were explaining and presenting the project to all the attendees. Then, regarding to the action of meeting with stakeholders and politicians here as well, we had a lot of support from the schools who were collaborating in the project, because we had a meeting with the stakeholders and public bodies in Altaviana, which was the vet centers from Valencia, and that was created thanks to the contacts that were established during the Gastronomic fair, the first one we participated to. And then we had an online meeting. As well here, the coordinator from the Escuela Superior de Hostelería de Bilbao was participating, and this was with the ASI Foundation, Elica Foundation, and there were contacts we made during the Food for Future Fair in Bilbao. And then also the communication, actually the engagement of the school was really important in this part, because on one side we realized two video tutorials of 2 zero waste recipes. So one was a chickpea salad and the other one is the cod salad. They will be uploaded on the YouTube channel of the Life Foster project. And we want to thank Miguel Escudero, which was the chef of the Escuela Superior de Hostelería de Bilbao, who did all the work, let's say. And then on the part of social media and press releases, here as well, it was really important, like all this motivation from the schools, because they were planning all these activities, workshops, participation in fairs. So this was good from one side for the social media diffusion, and from the other side, we could publish articles on Life Foster project in different blogs, webpage, and one of them was the Restauración Colectiva, and the other one is the Asociación de Hostelería de Vizcaya. So we arrived to the, let's say, the second point of view. I want to give you all like this Life Foster effect, no, in the Spanish context. So as Barbara was saying before, one of the goals of this project was to improve the quality of education. And I think this is something we actually achieved, because we improved the teaching resources of our vet centers. First of all, they are now using new teaching methodologies and materials, like all the materials we have been developing, and as well like the problem tree and all the different training we give them. Also, I think a goal has been for our vet centers that now they have incorporated the Life Foster content in all different subjects that they have inside their school. So that's also really important. For example, in Bilbao, they actually integrated the training in the subject of hygiene and environment. So, and they are utilizing a new methodology which is called the ETAZ methodology, which is a collaborative learning method with different challenges. So that's how they are incorporating all these Life Foster project in the plan, in the study plan of the students, because that was the goal. The goal was not to reply the training that was given to Conegliano at the beginning. The beginning was to incorporate the concepts that were given there in the study plan of the students around the partner countries. And for example, something that was really good for a project, that in the Altaviana school, they create a new role, like the Life Foster supervisor in the kitchen of the school. Then on the other side, something that I think it was a really good Life Foster effect, the new collaboration. We are saying today that it's an end point, but it's a start point as well, no? It's a starting point to follow up with all we have learned until now. So I think all the new collaboration we have been establishing with the University of Valencia, Generalitat, the Foundation, and also we established a contact with a Food Roots project, which is a Horizon project. And all those things, like, they're really important to still go on with all this topic. And then I want to finish with these two words, awareness and motivation, and I wanted to say thank you to the commitment of our schools, because I know they are online and they are watching us, because the project has been successful thanks to them in multiple aspects. Awareness, because all the people, like the students, the staff, all the people who got in contact in Spain with this project, now they are aware about this problem. And not just that, they are motivated, because we give them the tools, we give them, as I think Nadia was saying, no, sometimes we are really aware about the problem, but we just don't have the tools to face it. So we, apart from the awareness, we provide them the tool, and they are more motivated. So we are really proud of our result. We are really proud of our schools and the involvement and engagement. And thanks for listening to me and the participation in the project.
Spalladini. Now let's see the last perspective, the France perspective, with Mr. Loïc Tournoidet, Director of Communication at AFPA, and then Nicolas Paul, Training Engineer at AFPA as well. Thank you.
Thank you, buongiorno a tutti. Hello everyone, bonjour à tous. Thank you to the University of Gastronomy for welcoming us today. It's the beautiful setting of gastronomy. Thank you, NAIP, and thank you all the partners of this wonderful project, without whom nothing had been possible. First of all, let me introduce you AFPA. Which one is it? The last one. AFPA is a public, industrial and commercial establishment. It's the national agency for vocational training of adults. AFPA is a major operator of qualifying vocational training in Europe, member of the Public Employment Service. It's 116 vet centers, 26 for catering industry for food service, 8,000 employees and 17 trainers for food service. AFPA, it's also 100,000 trainees, traditionally adults, and recently minors under 18 from 16 to 18. 56 people supported to find their way back to work, and 3,300 people with disabilities. It's also 6,500 client companies for training and consulting. At AFPA, it's 80% of satisfaction rate and 71% rate of access to employment after an AFPA training. Sorry. It's okay now. AFPA and the Life Foster Project, it's 2,684 trainees trained from AFPA and apprentice training centers like CFA des Chefs. CFA des Chefs is the first corporate company training center for Sodexo, Accor, Disneyland, and Corian, if you know the marks. AFPA is trained more than 70 trainers face-to-face before the pandemic and by digital learning during the pandemic. I let Loïc continue.
Thanks, Nicolas. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here for almost 4 years later after the beginning of the project. I'm looking Giorgio. I remember the first time here. And during these 4 years, we have produced a lot of digital resources for our students. But also we have organized events, workshops, webinars, and so after having experimented all this material with our trainers and trainees, we decided to put it in an open online courses on our MOOC platform. So I will describe it quickly for you. So this MOOC is assemble more than 100 resources. More of them are videos, tutorials, chef testimonials, also registered webinars, registered online courses. And we propose it a 4 weeks progression. During these 4 weeks, we have a live course each Saturday. And it's really a project, a collective project, because several AFPA centers participate to it. We have also a community that has been created 6 years ago. And we have a badge. So I will... No, the next one. So we have engage some chefs from gastronomy restaurants, but also from school restaurants to explain how they act to reduce food waste in their restaurant, and also to give us some testimonials. For the live courses, we have engaged trainers and trainees from the 4 AFPA centers, and they give the recipe at the beginning of the week, and then all the learners can follow the course and interact with the trainer and ask some questions. In the community, you have the pedagogy team and also trainers and trainees that can help all the new learners. And every day, each learner can ask questions and they have a quiz response, not only on the food waste, but also more widely on the cooking subject. And so we have, of course, according to the Life Foster project, an evaluation at the beginning, of course, and at the end of the MOOC. So we can measure how the people has progressed and how the awareness has increased. But we have also a booklet that has been produced and traduced and translated in all the countries. We have put it in the MOOCs, like 19 parts, the 19 important things to remember, and it is spread all around, along the MOOC. And at the end, if the learner succeeds in all the quiz, he can acquire an open badge to put it on his curriculum vitae online. So it's a kind of micro-credential approach. To summarize, just some figures, 3,000 subscribers, more than 1,000 have completely done it. It's all over the world, and we have, it has been rated on a TripAdvisor of the courses, which is my MOOC, which is an independent platform which crawled all the MOOC all over the world, and all the MOOCers can evaluate them like on a TripAdvisor for an hotel. So this is the rate, 4.8 the rate. And we win an award recently for this MOOC. So I'll let Nicolas explain. Maybe.
Thank you. Life Foster, it's also 3 big events for the trainees and the trainers. 2 European ones with the food waste hackathon. You can see the French participants on the picture on the right. And then the Zero Waste Brainstorming Challenge in last May here in UNISG. And we also organized a Life Foster Burger Challenge just in front, an online contest where the participant has to create and prepare 100% homemade burger, excluding animals' proteins. We had more than 40 participants, and you can see the picture of the winner of the challenge. And the winner of the challenge has to prepare a burger in front of all the community of trainees during a masterclass. It has been a really big event, and today you can have this burger in the AFPA collective restaurant for lunchtime. And Life Foster is now a professional recognition in France, because today all professional titles in the catering sector include the skills of the fight against food waste. So from now on, when you prepare a diploma linked with the hotel and catering service industry, you have to make the proof that you've got the skills about food waste. So these skills are included in the training framework of 5 diplomas: catering agent, which is level 3, cook level 3, waiter level 3, chef in collective restaurant level 4, and restaurant manager level 5. You've got special skills consecrated at the food waste. And coming soon, the end of the project as a political level, AFPA will join the National Pact Against Food Waste of the Ministry of Agriculture, which has been created 2 years ago. So it's a big victory for us. We had the response yesterday in the train with Loic. So we are great to present it to you. So what is the pact, national pact against food waste of the Ministry of Agriculture? It's about 40 partners, and AFPA will be the first vet center to include this national pact. And there's plenty of measures, about 20, and AFPA is involved in 7 of these measures. The first one for all the partners is to participate in the work of the National Pact to combat food waste. The second one, collaborate with state services and relay the result of work carried out jointly. Support and participate in action to raise awareness and educate actors within networks of influence. Support and participate in public awareness action. Support the initial training of future food professionals, which is our job at AFPA. Support the continuing education of future food professionals, the second job at AFPA, and participate in the definition of a French position on the fight against food waste supported by the state within European and international bodies. Yeah, Mr. Sadok signed the pact yesterday. Thank you very much.
Grazie a tutti gli interventi, grazie Emanuela per il tuo preziosissimo aiuto. Allora, siamo arrivati lunghi, lo so, è sempre colpa del moderatore in questi casi.
We are late, it's always the fault of the moderator. We have a very short coffee break, which is a short aperitif. We'll meet you back here in a few minutes so that we can draw the conclusions. And you can speak Italian during the coffee break if you like.